Hey, good morning. It's Mark here with another morning rant. It's 4:26. Got up around 4 o'clock, so we're doing good. It's not 3 o'clock, so it's good. So this happened yesterday. You guys take a look at this. All right. So what was that? That was Robert E. Lee and his statue coming down in Virginia. If you don't know who Robert E. Lee is, sit back. I got you. All right. Robert E. Lee was an American general. Had a mediocre career as an engineer in the U.S. Army. Mediocre. He was the general that was I think he was like a captain or a colonel when he was given charge of 11. He was given charge of 11 Marines that went as an Army officer. He was put in charge of like 11 Marines to go to Harper's Ferry to get John Brown and his insurrection. John Brown was the abolitionist who wanted to start a slave uprising and thought that he can do so if he would get an ammunition depot and some freed slaves and some abolitionist thinking white people to start the race war. And he thought that if he can get it started, then other African Americans or slaves would follow. Didn't happen that way. Robert E. Lee was put in charge of these Marines. They went and got him, tried him, hung him, and this was like 1858, 59, right before the Civil War. So Robert E. Lee, again, he had a mediocre career, and before the Civil War took place, before Virginia left the Union, Lincoln administration had some of his officials go to Robert E. Lee and said, "Hey, we want you to lead the Northern Army against the or against the insurrectionists and against the secessionists." And he chose his state. He said, "Hey, if Virginia leaves the Union, I have to leave. I have to follow my state." But what made him so famous prior to that, and I want to say that he married someone from George Washington's wife family. I think he either hold on, give me a second, because they thought that Robert E. Lee was going to be that guy to carry on in Washington's tradition. Let's see. I think he's related to the Custis's. He's related to Martha Washington, husband's side of the family, I think. So first husband, the Custis family. I don't know if he married into it or if he was a part of it, but that's what made him so famous prior to becoming the general for the Confederate Army. And then Robert E. Lee became the Confederate general of the Confederate Army, and he and his army led a revolt against America. So when you talk about, or when you try to praise Robert E. Lee, you got to look at it in this context. He sided against America. So if you love America a lot, or if you're a proponent of American history, or if you love America as you say you do, then you should not be supporting a man like Robert E. Lee. Now, I liken Robert E. Lee to Benedict Arnold. Now, we can say this. There is a difference between Robert E. Lee and Benedict Arnold, and this is it. The founding fathers, the quote-unquote founding fathers of this country, were indeed traitors in this context. This country was under the British Crown. We were a colony of the United Kingdom. We decided to go against that kingdom for whatever reason, taxes, whatever. We decided to go against that kingdom. Now, if America had lost, if the colonies had lost, George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, General Knox, all those guys would have been tried for treason. They would have been hung, drawn, and quartered. What's that? They would have hung them right before they were going to die. They were going to take them down, and they were going to draw them. They were going to cut them open, let their guts bleed out. But right before they really died, they were going to tie them up to a horse, 4 horses, all their extremities, and have those horses go opposite directions. They would have been hung, drawn, and quartered for treason, for being traitors. So, but because they won, now what does Benedict Arnold play into all this? Is he really a traitor? If he was fighting for the American army and he sided back with the British, does that make him a traitor? He's only a traitor to the Americans because we won. So you gotta look into it like that. You gotta go a little bit deeper, and then you gotta look at why Benedict Arnold did what he did. But I digress. I got multiple books up here about Benedict Arnold. But anyway, so that's who Robert E. Lee was. Now, why did that statue come down? Should it have come down? Of course it should have come down. I don't feel as if any traitors to this country should be praised. They got statues. I want to say they got statues of Jefferson Davis in the Capitol Rotunda, and he was a senator who was a West Point graduate. Who became the Confederate president. Is it still there? I want to say Jefferson Davis' statue is still there, because each state is given 2 statues that they can put in the Capitol Rotunda. They can put any 2 people they want. And Mississippi chose this one. Mississippi chose that one. Jefferson Davis. I want to say, and here are other statues of him. This is in Memphis Park. I don't know where Memphis Park is at. Tennessee. This is in Richmond, Virginia. Vicksburg, Virginia. So how do I feel about these statues? They should come down. Now you got to go watch John Oliver. John Oliver did a whole 21-minute segment on his show about the Confederacy, and here's what he found out about those statues. So I believe that if you're going to put a statue of anybody, a statue, a painting, a relic, any kind of historical significance to traitors, they should not be praised in public national parks. They should be put in museums, so people can go and learn. I mean, don't get rid of the entire history of these people. Don't wipe them out completely, but they should be in a museum. You don't see people in Germany having pictures of Hitler or Hitler statues all over the damn place, or swastikas hung up in their houses. No, you can see this person in a museum. And Germany still have to deal with that legacy of having a tyrant such as Hitler as the leader of their country. Listen to what John Oliver said about when these statues were put up in America.
But we do have to reckon, personally and as a country, with what our heritage means. You can't ignore it like Batman. You can't say it's something else like town meeting Santa. You've got to actively, painfully come to grips with slavery and the lasting benefits and disadvantages that it conferred in ways that, frankly, we haven't yet. And that actually brings us back to Confederate monuments, because there is something about them that symbolizes our reluctance to have that conversation, and that is the dates that they went up. Because while some initial memorials were built mainly in cemeteries shortly after the Civil War, the real surge came much, much later.
The Southern Poverty Law Center says a majority of the more than 700 Confederate monuments in public spaces across the country were erected decades after General Lee's surrender.
It's true. As this chart of the years that they were dedicated shows, there was a big spike from 1900 to 1920.
I'm going to stop it right there. From 1900 to 1920. And what happened from 1900 to 1920? This guy. This guy. President Woodrow Wilson. A racist, one of the most racist presidents that we will have. I think second to not Thomas Jefferson, but second to Andrew Jackson. But what happened with Woodrow Wilson was in 1915. He was president during the teens. He was the president that led this country through World War I for I think we were in the fighting for about a year and a half. The World War I went on for I think about 4 years, but we came in toward the latter half. But anyway, and we helped push World War I toward a victory for the Allies, I want to say, because I get that kind of confused, for the American forces. All right, not the Axis powers, but the Allies. So what happened in 1915 was D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation. And I have yet to see this movie. It's a silent movie. I would like to see it so I can get a good sense of what all happened. But this movie was made in 1915, and Woodrow Wilson showed that movie in the White House. He had a private White House screening, and he's quoted to have said, and I've read somewhere else where he didn't say it, but this is what historians have said. Now, again, there are some historians that say he didn't say that at the time, but the quote is that he felt like it was history being written with lightning. In other words, he really agreed with the sentiments of that movie, and it basically portrays black people who were not stars in the movie. They were white people in blackface as evil, criminal, foaming from the mouth, attacking white women, and that the Ku Klux Klan came along to save the day for the most part. That they came and freed the white woman from her burden of the black man. And so when that happened, you saw a surge, you saw a spike in recruitment, because by then, by then you had the Ku Klux Klan that was waning. The Ku Klux Klan was founded in 1865, 1866 in Tennessee by Robert Bedford Forrest. Go back and watch Forrest Gump. He'll tell you how he got his name. This is a newsreel of the Ku Klux Klan coming to Washington, D.C. in full regalia. Look at this, clad in full regalia. They make a wonderful spectacle. This is a silent film, so you don't have to really listen to the... But here's the Ku Klux Klan in Washington, D.C. marching in Washington, D.C. And by this time, they had got up to 3 to 5 million I knew that was going to happen. From 3 to 5 million members into their ranks, and they had become so powerful because they had judges, they had mayors, they had senators, they had congressmen, they had all kind of people that were in this, sheriffs deputies. They had a lot of people that joined, and in some places you couldn't get on a ticket, you couldn't get a job in certain areas unless you were a member of the Ku Klux Klan. And they had become so powerful that they showed up in Washington, D.C. just to march and do that. And that's, I didn't want to just show you pictures. I wanted to show you actual footage of them marching in D.C. and everybody coming to watch. And when those people saw, I think I saw a kid. Children. When those people, no, that's not true, those are police officers. When those people that was watching that saw those people march down the march in Washington, D.C., a lot more people joined. So again, from 1900 to 1920, going back to this, from the 1900s to the 1920s, that's when the daughters of the Confederate families or whatever they are, that's when they started erecting monuments to the Confederacy. And that was a spike between 1900 and 1920. And then there was another spike in the 60s during the Civil Rights Movement. So these statues didn't come up before, during, or technically right after the Civil War. Some statues came up, but not as many as what came up during the 1900s. So that's why they should come down.
White Southerners were reasserting their dominance through things like Jim Crow laws, with another spike in the 50s and 60s as the civil rights movement was gaining steam. So those statues are not so much commemorating recently fallen dead as sending a pretty hostile message to African Americans. And sending messages is kind of what statues are often for. This one says, "We love freedom." This one says, "The most notable thing about our city is a fictional character." And this one says, "About yay big." We still don't know.
So I just yeah. So I would tell you guys, if you get a chance, it's got 25 million views as of October of 2017. So he makes it funny, but it's educational. I would say go and Google John Oliver Confederacy and listen to that segment, because it explains a lot. So that's why these statues should come down. It's not heritage. It's not patriotism. No, these guys were traitors. They fought against, do you know how many people died during the Civil War? About one point, you know what? You ain't gonna believe what I just wrote. I should have put American Civil War because there's so many civil wars. Here you go. So, how many people died? The casualties and losses. On the American side, you had about 825,000 who were, well, total dead. 365,000 total dead, 282,000 plus wounded, 181,000 captured. On the Confederate side, you had 290,000 total dead, 137,000 plus wounded, 436,658 captured. Casualties, 828 plus thousand for the Americans, 864 plus thousand for the Confederacy, 50,000 free civilians dead, 80,000 plus slaves dead, mostly from disease, and 616,222 up to 1 million plus people died during the Civil War. So this is the greatest deaths of Americans in any war, in all of our wars, for the most part, combined. If you're going to look at the deaths of the American Revolution, the First World War, the Second World War, Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, you're going to look at all those deaths. We fought in we fought terrorism for the better part of 20 years. And when you look at the different states, now this is everybody combined, this is not just America, but 800,000 plus people were killed, 800,000 in 20 years. You had 1 million plus people that died in the Civil War in 4 years. So when you see these statues, when you see, as a matter of fact, we just had a statue in Mobile that I've seen the statue for years, and I never knew who this guy was. I never knew who this guy was, but his statue was up, and it was in downtown Mobile. And let me see if I can find it. And they finally took it down in Mobile a few years ago. I want to say, I can't. I want to make sure I got the guy's name right, and that's what I'm trying to. I want to say it's Farragut, but I don't see the statue. I could be wrong. Give me a second, people. Oh, yep, it wasn't Farragut. It was Sims, Raphael Sims. That's who I saw in Mobile, in downtown Mobile, near Water Street. I remember driving through when my family and I, we went down to Mobile. When we moved to Montgomery, we drove home, and I think we drove down there, and the statue was gone. I'm like, wow, they got rid of the statue, but it had been there. Here it is, right here. It had been up for years. I remember seeing this guy for years. Well, no, that's not the statue. That's it coming down. But here is where it used to sit. It used to sit right here. If you look over to the other side over here, that's where the Exploria Museum is. And they finally took it down. Raphael Sims. I used to see this as a kid. Never knew who he was. Never knew why he was there. But yeah, he was a Confederate naval officer. And they took it down. He shouldn't have a statue. But if he should, it should be in a freaking museum, and they should explain what he did. He was not an American patriot. So, and when you talk about Alabama, when you talk about Mobile, you talk about some of the most Confederate loving people, and we don't even know it. Like, I remember the Dukes of Hazzard, and loving the Dukes of Hazzard. I used to love that show. It was funny, and I loved it. So I want you guys to see something real quick. This car right here. Now, I don't know what the 01 was for. I don't know what the 01 meant. Still don't. But that color, that orange, is like a Confederate red. You know, this car was named the General Lee. It was called the General Lee. I never knew, as a kid, I didn't know who General Lee was. I just knew that car was the General Lee. And I never associated the General Lee with Robert E. Lee. And then I want you to see something else on this car. The top of this car, it has a Confederate flag at the top of this car. Yeah. It has a Confederate flag on the top of the car. And I never knew. I saw this flag so much growing up, and I never knew what the flag was. No one taught me what that flag was. So here I am, loving General Lee, loving the Dukes of Hazzard. I want you to see this guy. This guy here. He's dressed like, I don't know what's wrong. He's dressed like a slave owner. That was Boss Hogg. That was the sheriff, I think, or the mayor. I think it was the mayor of whatever county that they were in. But this guy was dressed like a Confederate slave owner. And I never understood it. I never understood what the hell I was watching. And how long did this show last? Dukes of Hazzard ran for a number of years, right? From 79 to 85. And it was a popular show. Daisy Dukes come from Daisy Duke. The shorts that she used to wear, these shorts, they were called Daisy Dukes, named after Daisy Duke from Dukes of Hazzard. So I'm at 26 minutes, people. Oh crap, I just disappeared myself. So that's history for you. That's why those statues should come down. That's why they must come down. I don't give a fuck what the Confederate people say. Go to hell, you lost. All right, I'm gonna leave it at that. It's 4:52. I gotta get this thing loaded. So you guys have a great what's day? Thursday? Yep, it's Friday Eve. So you guys, and man, this week is going by so fast. My last day at work is Tuesday of next week. I got like 4 days of work left, and oh my God, it's crazy. Nervous. I got a call. I got a little note here. I got to call the human resources at the school system and find out what am I doing on my first day. So I got to call and find out that today. And I got that little note so I don't forget to call. But hey, if you stayed this long, I appreciate you guys staying. Go ahead. Look, there's a lot of people watching this show and watching this podcast or whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of people watching this but are not actively a member of the program. So look, go ahead, quit playing around, click that follow button, go to YouTube, subscribe to that channel, because what you see here is what you see there. Quit playing around, support the damn show. I get up at 0, nobody waking up 30 in the morning to do this for you guys. Quit just watching my damn show and like the damn thing. All right, hey, again, you guys have a great Thursday, and I will see you on the next one. All right, I'm out. Y'all take care. My wife don't like when I bite my lips, so that's why I did it.